My name is Anika Mistry, and I'm the founder and CEO of DevMinds Learning and a Girls with Impact graduate. Before Girls with Impact, I knew I loved technology and solving problems. So before I joined the program, I was conducting collegiate level research and was deeply focused on the science behind innovation. And I believe that scientific discovery was how you created an impact. What I came to realize was that's not the case. Science alone is not going to be able to reach the audience that I wanted to reach. So that's when I realized I needed a way to translate what I was doing in my scientific work into something that can reach people at scale. And at that time, I thought that creating a company might be a way to do that. But I also thought that starting a company is something that people do later in life. And after many years of experience, and it was after being in a career for a while. So Girls with Impact allowed me to change that assumption because it showed me that age isn't a prerequisite for creating change. If you see a problem that you care enough about, you don't have to wait for permission. You can start now. And that mindset shift ultimately led me to create DevMinds Learning and pursue opportunities that I would never have imagined myself doing. And it helped me realize that entrepreneurship is not just a business path, but it's a way to create a meaningful impact. DevMinds Learning was inspired by my experience volunteering at a learning center for neurodiverse children. And through my work there, I saw firsthand how important consistent support, therapy, and social emotional learning are for helping children build confidence and develop critical life skills. This is especially important with neurodiverse children. But then when the pandemic hit, many of those services suddenly became unavailable or inaccessible. For example, therapy sessions now moved online, so they were disrupted. Learning centers closed, and families were left with very few effective tools to continue supporting their children at home. And at the same time, I noticed that most of the digital solutions available weren't personalized to each child's needs, interests, or goals. So there was a gap there. And that experience made me realize that there was an opportunity to use technology to support more accessible and engaging neurodiversity support. So what started as a passion project eventually became DevMinds, an AI-powered social emotional learning platform that helps neurodiverse children practice social emotional learning skills through personalized interactive activities, both at home and in between therapy sessions. And since then, DevMinds has grown from this idea into a venture that has secured nearly $100,000 in non-dilutive funding, conducted pilot studies with leading autism clinics, and partnered with therapists and educators all across the US, and expanded its reach far beyond what I originally imagined. So what motivated me to keep going after Girls with Impact was seeing how real and widespread the problem was. The more families, therapists, and educators that I spoke to, the more I realized that access to support still remains a major challenge for millions of children, even post-pandemic. So knowing that the work that I'm doing has the potential to make a meaningful difference in the lives of millions of children is what continues to drive me today. First, you know what's going on in your own head. When you're a founder, you have that vision and you know where you want to go. But getting people on board and then motivating them was something that I had to learn. It couldn't just be, okay, I'm going to just do it myself. Now that I had people who I was paying and who I was mentoring and who I was helping start their careers, it now became, how can I create a roadmap and align on expectations and values and also what we both want to get out of an opportunity. So that was something that was a learning curve, but something that's been incredibly rewarding, both from a business perspective as well as a personal perspective. So the moment I truly realized that I can actually do this was after our first pilot study with neurodiverse students. So when we conducted our first pilot study, we saw that 95 of participating children were showing measurable improvements in their social emotional learning schools that we were targeting. And up until that point, DevMinds was just an idea, a prototype, and a lot of late nights. But then getting to see the real impact and seeing children engage with the platform and making progress transformed it from just a concept into something tangible. And it wasn't proving that I could just start a company. It was about seeing that the solution could genuinely help families. So that experience gave me the confidence to keep building and the conviction that this work could actually make a meaningful difference. So just in general, my younger self would have never believed that I would have founded a company at 15 and now has almost 100K in non-dilutive funding, or would have had the opportunity to speak at global conferences like the Milken Global Conference about DevMinds and my entrepreneurial work at just 19 years old, or stand on stages talking about the future of technology and AI and women in entrepreneurship all across the world. So more than any singular achievement, I think younger me would be surprised that I became someone who's willing to take risks and pursue ideas that felt bigger than myself. So Girls with Impact taught me not to let other people's expectations define what's possible for me. The biggest lessons that I took away from the program was that age, gender, or experience shouldn't determine whether you pursue an opportunity. And if you believe that you can contribute, you should be willing to take that chance, even if others don't immediately understand your vision. And I've carried this mindset with me throughout my career, and it's what actually led me to pursue an MBA at just 21 years old while I was still completing my undergraduate degree. And many of my classmates and even the faculty questioned the decision, and some people doubted whether I even belonged in the program at all. But instead of focusing on whether I fit into the traditional mold, I focused on learning, contributing, and making the most of the opportunity, which is what Girls with Impact taught me. And by the end of the program, I was actually recognized as one of Poets and Quant's top 100 best and brightest MBA students, an honor awarded to MBA students from leading business schools around the world. And that experience reinforced what Girls with Impact taught me years earlier. Don't let other people place limits on what you think is possible. So the biggest lesson that I still use in my everyday life is to not accept the status quo simply because it's the way things have been done in the past. Girls with Impact encouraged me to look at problems through an entrepreneurial lens and ask, why does it have to be this way? And that question has shaped everything I've done since. It's what led me to challenge traditional approaches to supporting neurodiverse students through technology, and it's what gave me the confidence to pursue a dual degree path with my MBA that wasn't common. And it's something that I've applied whether I'm solving a problem, building a product, or making a career decision. And it is something that helped me realize that innovation starts when you're willing to question assumptions, and that is the mindset that I carry with me into my everyday life. Girls with Impact definitely gave me the confidence to trust my own voice and ideas. Before the program, I was comfortable doing research and building things behind the scenes, but I wasn't always confident sharing my perspective publicly. And through the program, I learned that having a seat at the table isn't enough. You have to be willing to speak up once you're there. And that confidence has shaped nearly every opportunity I've pursued since. It's helped me pitch to investors, speak at national and international conferences, advocate for my company and my users, and lead teams in environments where I was often the youngest person in the room. And more importantly, it taught me that confidence isn't about knowing all the answers. It's about believing that your perspective has value and asking questions and being willing to contribute even when you're still learning. When I started Girls with Impact, I expected to learn the foundations of business and entrepreneurship and maybe explore how I can turn my research interests into something practical. And at the time, it felt like a productive way to spend my time during the pandemic and learn skills that might be useful in the future. But what I didn't expect was everything that came after. So I never imagined that the ideas I began developing would eventually lead me to found a company, travel internationally to grow that venture, secure funding, and work alongside mentors like Jennifer Openshaw and industry leaders, or speak at these conferences about my work and social impact and AI. And these business skills were incredibly valuable, but what I really walked away with was completely different. It was a different view of what was possible. And Girls with Impact helped me realize that young women don't have to wait until they're older or more experienced to create a meaningful change. And looking back, the program didn't just teach me about entrepreneurship. It helped launch a journey that has shaped the past several years of my life. I would tell myself to stop worrying about whether I'm qualified enough and just start focusing on learning. You don't have to have everything figured out before you begin, and some of the most meaningful opportunities in my life have come from taking the first step before feeling completely ready. I would tell her that belonging isn't something you earn after reaching a certain milestone. It's something that you already have. If you're curious, passionate about solving problems, and willing to learn, then you belong. Don't wait for someone else to validate your potential, and start where you are. Use the resources around you and trust that your perspective matters. The world needs more women building solutions, leading organizations, and shaping the future.